All right, I want to get into this last thing on our big thoughts. Is I on the Big Ten Network said that I thought that Michigan was the most complete team in the Big Ten Conference, and then I reiterated that on Twitter. And I need to stop, but I got into it with some of the Twitter idiots because one guy was like, "Well, you're not a Buckeye anymore." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, you think Michigan's a better team, essentially." And I said, I don't know if you don't understand the definition of the word complete, but complete does not necessarily mean better. It means that they have an offense that I think is good. They have a defense that I think is good. And they have a special teams unit that has showed that they will go out and block punts and that they can return kicks. Whereas Ohio State is a team that has a very, very explosive offense. They have a defense that lives off of havoc, which is very inconsistent. And their special teams is good. And so what it boils down to basically is this idea of, would you rather be in college football nowadays a complete team that has good offense, good defense, good special teams, or would you rather be a team that thrives on explosion, where you can score in runs like the Golden State Warriors? Maybe your defense is going to play well. Maybe they're going to give up some big plays. Because I think that's exactly what the game is going to come down to, is the most complete team in the Big Ten Conference, in my opinion, in Michigan, who also had their most explosive performance of the year, versus the most explosive team in maybe the nation, in Ohio State, but also had their most complete performance of the year against Michigan State.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. And I think if you're going to be that team that's going to be complete, you need to be above and beyond in all three phases, right? Mm-hmm. In some way, shape, or form, if that makes sense. I think Ohio State is built offensively in a bracket of their own. But I think something that you bring up about defensively is that they've shown vulnerability. Everyone's going to have some games and some guys are going to come out and play, at a higher level, but they haven't. Michigan, from a defensive standpoint, hasn't put themselves in bad situations, really ever. And when they've needed them the most, they've stepped up, right? I think offensively for Ohio State, that's kind of been the thing, because I think honestly, even this Michigan State game, if Ohio State didn't come out and play out of their mind offensively to start, to your point, the defense didn't eliminate Kenneth Walker. The offense eliminated Kenneth Walker from that game. You know what I mean? And to be able to have an offense that can do that and make a team one-dimensional helps your defense tremendously. I don't think Michigan has to do that. Or at least they haven't shown the need to do that all year against anybody. They've just played really complete football games, complementary football, and they've fed off of one another. They've never really had to go out and start stretching offensively. They've never had to do the same defensively. Right. So I think you make a very great point about complete. They are a very complete team. Are they complete to the level of, again, which I think the bar is in college football this year, Georgia? No.
Right.
No. But they are complete. And to me, you still need, if you're not that complete defensively, I mean, like I said, we've talked about it on the After Dark show. Like, that defense is insane. When you start looking at the numbers and you start breaking them down, just the way that they've played week in, week out. If you're not that complete defensively, then you need to have some explosion offensively to be able to keep up with everybody else, right? So I think the way college football is trending, you need to be sexy, you need to be sleek, you need to have that big gun and then be able to let it dump that clip really fast. But there is something to be said about a very complete team that can play really good complementary football. And if you're coached properly, if you manage the game properly, if everything is going your right way, that's always tough to beat, because that's the foundation of football, right? It's the greatest team sport ever. And if you can play that, that's awesome. So it's kind of a clash of two worlds this weekend, which is going to be cool. But I agree with you. I think they are one of the most complete teams in college football, if not the most complete team. And I think for you to bring this back up, it's good. It's great for everybody out there listening, because I don't think people think that way. I think people are now so much brought up in, like, again, all the flash and all the glitz and the glamour. But when you look at football at its core, purists should be really excited about this Michigan team.
Yeah. And that's kind of the deal there is, you would in 2021, you would rather be the more explosive team because you can just outscore people. And we understand the role of offenses in football today. However, I think being a complete team puts you in a position to where if you need one unit to rise when the other unit's lacking, you can do that because you have the ability to do both. And so it's, again, not to say that complete is better, because in this case, you can look at recruiting rankings and you can look at, scoring offense and all these different things that ultimately dictate games. And you can say Ohio State's a better team, right? But at the same time, you can also say that Michigan will present challenges because when you're a complete team, you have to play them pretty even.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is like, there's never a drastic dip one way or the other with Michigan. Yeah. Their dips are very skewed in a tight manner, as opposed to when you watch some other teams, the offense is playing out of their mind, but their defense can't stop a lick.
Yeah, that was
Alabama. Watch Oklahoma this. Yeah, it was Alabama last week. Watch Oklahoma pretty much, Oklahoma's gone like this all year. You know what I mean? It's, peaks and valleys, right? But Michigan stays very centered with everything. And it keeps them in football games. I mean, even the Penn State game, when you watch it, like that was a tough fought game. And it was just Michigan stayed here and Penn State was here. Right. And it's a great point. And that's a great teachable lesson for people watching the game. Like, if you can keep it steady Eddie and keep the bow in the right direction through the storm, you're going to be all right. More times than not.